Back in the early 2000s, I found myself in a nightmare I never saw coming, a stalker from high school named Ethan. Our story began innocently enough in a community theater group where I thought he was just a shy guy. Little did I know, this seemingly harmless connection would spiral into a terrifying obsession. At first, our late-night chats felt innocent and even enjoyable. But as the weeks turned into months, Ethan's fixation turned sinister. He began calling me several times a week, his soft, eerie voice sending chills down my spine. His awkward whispers filled the silence, and my mundane life felt like a prison. I was desperate for an escape but felt trapped. To cope, I devised a plan. I asked my mom to call me for dinner whenever I needed an excuse to hang up. This little trick worked until it didn't. Ethan had my address and email, and he started sending bizarre messages filled with creepy quotes and unsettling chain letters. Then, the summer came, and my family moved, leaving my old life behind. I hoped to escape Ethan, but he somehow tracked down my new number, and the calls resumed. One fateful afternoon, the atmosphere thickened with dread. Home alone, I heard the doorbell ring. Peering through the peephole, my heart sank. It was Ethan, accompanied by a tall, shadowy figure I didn't recognize. With trembling hands, I opened the door, forcing a smile. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my voice quaking. Neither of them spoke. Their eyes were cold and vacant. As they stepped closer, an overwhelming sense of dread washed over me. I invited them in, attempting to be polite, but as they crossed the threshold, a dark chill settled in my gut. Ethan barely whispered a word while his friend's gaze seemed to scan my home, sizing it up like a predator. In a desperate attempt to break the suffocating silence, I showed them a drawing I'd made for the play. The moment felt surreal, two ominous figures in my living room, their presence suffocating. They lingered for what felt like an eternity before finally leaving. I bolted the door behind them, heart racing. In the days that followed, paranoia consumed me. I refused to share my new address, but Ethan still had my home phone number. A few weeks later, the phone rang while I was alone. I answered, praying it was a friend, but it was him. "You don't sound happy to hear from me," he said, his voice low and menacing. "I'm just tired," I replied, trying to maintain composure. "You don't sound tired," he replied, a twisted satisfaction creeping into his tone. Panic surged through me. How did he know? Where was he? I hung up abruptly, hands shaking. I rushed upstairs, locked myself in the bathroom, and called my mom. "He's here. He's watching," I gasped. My mom's response was swift. She rushed home, and as I waited, every creak of the house sent chills through me. When she arrived, she was furious and immediately called the police. They advised me to document everything and establish firm boundaries. I realized I had been living in a horror movie without even knowing it. A few weeks later, while at a school event, I spotted Ethan lurking in the shadows, his eyes fixated on me like a predator. My heart raced, but this time I wasn't alone. My friends surrounded me, and when I reported him to security, I felt a mix of fear and relief as they escorted him away. But the nightmare didn't end there. Later that night, a soft tap at my window made my blood run cold. Heart pounding, I peeked out and saw him standing in the moonlight, grinning like a maniac. I felt my stomach drop. My mom rushed in, panic etched on her face. "Call the police," she shouted. I dialed 911, my hands trembling as I reported him. The police arrived quickly, but by the time they got there, he had vanished into the night. In the days that followed, I took every precaution. I tightened my online privacy, changed my number again, and avoided being alone. But the fear lingered, a shadow that wouldn't fade. To this day, I still feel that chill when I hear a car slow outside or spot a figure lingering in the distance. I've learned the hard way that some shadows never really leave. Stay vigilant and trust your instincts. You never know when someone might be lurking just outside your door. If you found this story spine-chilling, hit subscribe for more hair-raising tales that will keep you on the edge of your seat.